Continuing on our healthcare discussions this morning, we are going to flash our beans on another phenomenon called leg ulcers, aka achere. Locals also believe that they are fetish projections, sent supernaturally, against their victims. Well, are they fact or are they myths? What are the real truths behind achere? Well, we have Dr. Annie Mwambu Solomon. He's a senior registrar at the National Orthopedic Hospital, Enugu, and he's going to bring so much insight into this conversation. You may want to stick around. Good morning, Dr. Solomon.
Good morning to
I would
you.
like to start with an apology. If I had pronounced your name in any way, this is me saying I'm sorry. If you could just pronounce your name so that we will get to, internalize it.
I'm
Right.
Ebam Solomon Obiad.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Tell us what our leg ulcers.
I think I will rather start from the mythology.
Okay, we'll rather know what it is before the myths behind it. But it's your call. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's better to approach it from that angle. Yeah. Usually in the local communities, especially in rural areas and remote villages, people talk about achere, or what they call enyule. These are the common parlance to which they propagate this information over there in the villages. So it happens that whoever that has a leg ulcer, people attribute it to achere, enyule, which the local people believed that some people in the locality has the power to inflict this kind of disease on individuals who they thought may be their enemy, or they want you to suffer or to eliminate you. So when this thing happens, the propaganda goes that such a condition will not be managed in orthodox medicine facility. It must be in the local setting with the local herbs and things like that. So the propaganda keep on going, and people are actually ignorant of what really happened. Our discussion here is not to approve or disapprove that there is nothing like achere or doesn't exist. That is not the major reason why we are here to educate our people. The important thing our people need to take from this discussion is to know that from the experience we've gathered from our years of practice over 10 years ago, that more than 90 or 95% of what they call achere are actually chronic leg ulcers in medical parlance. It means that somebody has a wound that refuses to heal for a long time. That's why we call it chronic. Acute is something that happens immediately. The chronic is something that has been there over time, for a long time. So these disease conditions, which they refer to achere, are actually treatable conditions in medical facilities. And one of them, thank God that we are celebrating the World Diabetic Days. One of the major leg ulcers from diabetes, which the prof has already dealt with. The last speakers before me. So you can see that these things are simple things that you can nip at the board when they are coming up.
Okay, so how would you explain leg ulcers, medically to someone who is probably doesn't have any medical experience? How do you explain what leg ulcers are?
Fine. I will try to use as simple language as possible to describe them. The commonest leg ulcers that people attribute that are shared is what we call cellulitis. I will describe the way it starts. For instance, somebody goes to the farm to harvest things. As you are going along the bush path, you have leaves, plant branches that will be sticking to your legs, brushing your legs if you are not wearing boots and trousers. That means it will be brushing on your skins. These things can cause little abrasions or micro traumas and little injuries.
You might not even feel it.
Exactly. Sometimes you can see a small drop of blood from your leg as you are walking along this boot path. You just ignore it because it's insignificant to you. And you know that today, the immune system of people who are living within the African continent and Nigeria, for instance, are very low. Because people are not feeling well. So, ab initio in the olden days, people will have all these kind of problems. They will just apply leaf, so it will heal like that.
You're saying it healed, not just because of the herbs, but because of
immunity.
The immune system.
Exactly, that we are very strong at that time. But today, a lot of people have low immunity, which they don't know. Some may be even diabetic, they don't even know. So as they walk through this path to farm and have these contacts with the leaves and the trees around, they sustain a micro trauma. So when they come back home in the evening, the leg will begin to itch the person. It starts with itching. Before you know it, it becomes painful. As it's becoming painful, it begins to swell, small.
Those are signs of inflammation.
Exactly. Begin to turn red. If you look at that area, it becomes reddened, especially for fair people. It will be very, very obvious that the place is reddened. And the pain begins to come. So the person will now begin to think, I go to the farm, I quarrel with Mr. Okeke. So Mr. Okeke has done something to me. See my leg. You see? That's how they begin to attribute it to Ashere. By the next day, or in a 2 days' time, the swellings have become big, the pain has become obvious, and it begins to form something like boils. Like as if they poured hot water on that person's leg. It will swell up and all those boils will contain water inside. That's how it starts in majority of these cases.
We're talking cellulitis now.
Exactly. So the person, instead of the person to run to hospital, if the person comes at this stage where it is inflammation, it is pain, it is redness, I bet you wouldn't want the person will be fine. Just antibiotics. Because it is microorganisms that enter into the blood. Because a lot of microorganisms are on the skin. We call them normal flora. Why they are on the skin? They cause no problem. Because God kept them there to protect us. But then when there is a break on the skin, they now enter into a different environment, which is not theirs. Their own environment is to stay on the skin and fight. Other organisms that may come in, they fight them, so they are beneficial to us. But when you have a break on that skin, they now left this particular environment God has given to them. You enter into another environment.
Exactly. And they now become
problematic.
So the treatment, you said antibiotics.
Antibiotics, yes.
And it solves this problem.
It solves this problem at this early stage.
Okay, but we are still talking cellulitis.
Cellulitis, there are so many other. Yes, there are.
Just a little elucidation.
Okay, so why I took time to describe this cellulitis, because it is commonest among God. That they call this Ashere. Then other ones is diabetic foot ulcer, as Prof has mentioned. Somebody who is diabetic may not know that they have a blood sugar in excess. So when you have a trivial injury, maybe you are walking in the corridor and maybe a glass of tumbler, piece of tumbler just strike your toe and it bleeds. You say, okay, this is a small thing. Probably what they used to do is to put GV on that. Some will use hot water,
alcohol,
and things like that. But alcohol, honey, at home, this is what they do. The hot water is the worst because the individual who may be diabetic has what we call diabetic neuropathy.
What does that mean?
It means that the person doesn't feel much pain, sensations in the foot. So the major problem there is that a hot water they are applying on that small wound, the person is not feeling pain. And the person who is applying the hot water is thinking that the hot water is not hot enough.
And it increases.
Exactly, not knowing that the
And
person,
it
the person,
exacerbates the
by the next day, the leg was swollen up.
So we cause the problem most of
Exactly,
the time.
majority of them, yes, that caused the problem.
Okay, so I have this, it's not really a case study, but it was an experience I had with someone who, well, claimed he's an archery survivor. So like you rightly mentioned, he went to the village, came back, and then had this spot, like he called it, at one point. But then he started applying,
Different things.
no, I'm trying to get the word,
Aloe
not
vera.
just, not herbs, special, they prayed on the water, holy water. All right, so he was spraying, and then he applied it, and then the abrasion now left the particular spot and went to another spot. He pursued it to that spot, sprayed, he moved to another spot, he continued chasing it around until it disappeared. What are your thoughts on this story, really? What exactly would you attribute it to? Would it be his immune system, or what would you attribute it to?
First of all, there are people who are actually sick in the mind, but you wouldn't know. That's what we call a disease of the mind. It actually means that disease is not existing in your body, but in your mind.
Hypochondriacs?
It's not hypochondriacs. There are terminologies for those informations, but people in the medical field, we are surgeons, actually. So there are people that will interpret more on that area. But what actually happens, that these individuals will tell you that there's something there. Meanwhile, you as a doctor have looked at it and say, this place is okay. He says, no. Something is there, and he's doing me this, he's doing me that, he's doing, and you have examined the person clinically, investigate laboratory, all the tests you have done that. And you found nothing. Yet the person is saying
There's something.
there's something there. So what you need to send them to the psychotherapist,
So
clinical psychologist.
is it quite possible that people can actually have this and it's actually a chair?
Well, for me, I don't have the
You said we're not here to say it exists or it doesn't exist.
that kind of knowledge to say that there is a share.
But if you were not a medical personnel,
Yeah.
because of your medical knowledge and everything, you believe that there is always a logical explanation to anything that is happening to the human body.
I believe that if there is anything like a share,
Yes.
nobody will be alive, only you and me. This is my own belief, and it's personal. I don't believe there is anything like that. Because people that hate you are uncountable. You go back to your village, if you are doing well in your village, in your business, your academics, there are a lot of enemies. It's natural, envy. Even your colleagues, your classmates, your age grade, they see you, maybe you come back, you have a car, a new car, and they haven't bought one.
Tell us about it.
It's natural for the person to be jealous. And some will want to do you something. So if actually this Ashera that as they claim it is actually real, the majority of us will be there.
Is this contagious? And what are some of the first aid treatments that can be offered to someone? Assuming someone in the village, what could be the first aid treatment to offer them before you can now transfer them to town where they can get to hospital? First, it's two-pronged. Is it contagious? To what is the first aid for Achere? Air quotes, Achere.
Well, using the word Ashera to discuss.
That is why I said. That's why I said air quotes.
Will not be appropriate. Actually, those things are legal as The important thing is that if you have a wound, for any reason, the best bet to do is to go to hospital. Okay, you don't need to apply anything on the wound. Except if it's bleeding.
Not even clean water?
If it's bleeding,
okay,
then you can use a clean cloth, to tie it off so that the bleeding stops. Okay? Or some can use cotton wool. Or if there are a hospital around, a maternity home. You can go there. They put some dressing, put a crab bandage, at least to stop the bleeding while he goes to the hospital. The chronic leg ulcers is because the person have left the ulcer, managing it by herself or within the localities, using the local herbs. That's what makes it to be what? Chronic, because it refuses to heal. But our advocate is not to have it to get to that extent of being chronic. That these leg ulcers actually start one day. See? Most people will tell you that this thing has been there for 8 months, for 1 year, 2 years. What are you doing? It's because of the myth. They are here return. Because the people that does the treatment tell them that you can't treat in the hospital. You see where the people in the village are really in trouble. Because you have information that if you go to hospital and they give you injection, you'll die. Because this is a sharing. I have a experience on this. When I was in St. Joseph Hospital, that's in Anambra State, an elderly man, 75-year-old, but he's a retired civil servant, so he's educated, had a similar thing. I explained to him. He was breaking woods with an axe. So some pieces of that wood, but a hair must have, hit his leg. So the next day, the leg began to swell, as I've discussed with you.
Yes.
So the villagers told him that, they have given you a share that you need to go to the deeper man to do this. That they don't use injections in the hospital. Don't go to the hospital. If you go, you will die. The man listened to them and say, okay, no problem. He's going to go to the deep. But be an educated person. What did he do? He set out telling the family that he's going to the Dibia. And he came to hospital. Unfortunately, I was the person consulting the day he came. So he met me and said, doctor, please, I want to find out that our people say this is a sherry. And that if you give injection to this, that I will die. Is it true? I said, okay. That I'm not going to leave the giving of injection to the nurses. That I'm going to do it by myself as a doctor so that I will see how you are going to die. He said, I said, yes. So after taking the history, examining the man, I told the man, what you have is cellulitis, not a share.
But the next day, it was obvious it was cellulitis.
Yes, now. It's already red, very red, swollen, hot, warm, hard, very painful. That is difficult in the color they are sharing.
Does it bring out pus?
No, it has a later stage. When you get to, bringing out the blisters, from there you can get into a purulent isolate. So it's a progressive thing. And it progresses fast. Within 1 week, it can destroy the entire food. Is it contagious? It's not contagious. So this man, as I'm telling you, I admitted him in the hospital. I set line for him, gave him the antibiotics. And I sat down by his bedside and I was waiting for him to die, as they had told him. I waited here for 1 hour. I asked the man,
have you died?
are you dead? He said no.
I can't imagine.
Then also elevation, because you need to elevate the limb, because it's swollen.
Okay, well, it gives a sort of relief.
A lot of relief, and it will help the wound to heal faster. So the person has to be on bed, elevate the leg. You just put two pillows under the leg, so that leg will like this while he's relaxing on the bed. And I gave him antibiotics for 5 days. One couldn't believe his eyes. The leg came down, normal, all the redness, everything went off. He said, Doc, I'm going back to the village. Let me go and show them my leg.
So we can actually attribute this to misinformation.
Exactly.
How can we, change that narrative?
My brother, the government has a lot of work to do. That's why I am here, so that the people in government will also be listening to this program, I believe. And also people in the communities will also be listening. That all these things are just propaganda. I know that people who are in business will not want their business.
What kind of business?
The business of treating their ashere, the so-called ashere. You don't know it's a business.
So that's why they say if you go to the hospital.
Exactly, you die. You see? And it is similar thing. They will also tell you if you go to hospital, like orthopedic where I work, If you come there, they cut off your leg. That is what is reigning in the village. So when this problem is at its initial stage, the patient is afraid to come to hospital. Rather, he goes to these people. They don't treat it free. You pay. Is it not? So by the time the disease progressed, your leg begin to smell, bringing out maggots. Because I've attended to patients, countless of them are bringing maggots from their legs. If you are not in medical practice, you can't even stay where the patient is. The odor will turn everything in your stomach. But this is what we have signed to do. To clean the wound, even bringing out maggots.
You said that this disease, it progresses with
Yes.
time.
Very,
Is there
very
a
young.
particular stage in the progress of this disease that it can be treated with surgery?
Amputation. Cutting off the leg. Yes. That's at the stage most
People
of them
now
come to the
Before they
hospital.
present.
Yes. Because by that time, the odor is disturbing the family of whoever that is treating this woman. So the children, the wife, everybody will be telling the man, let the woman get out from this place. All that, they will not tell the woman or the man that they have removed the spirit that is causing their share. That you can now go to hospital. That if doctor gives you that treatment, your body will not accept it. You see, when they now come to hospital, you now say, okay, your leg is already dead. There's nothing we can do. We're going to cut it off. They say no. And he was told that the spirit have it, that now if the doctors give them medicine that they will refuse. So it will take like 3 or 4 days or 5 days before it's difficult to convince them that if you don't remove this leg, you will die with it, because a lot of sepsis infection is in that leg, which enters the system.
Definitely. Through the blood.
Yeah, exactly. So by the time you see them, their blood, in fact, some of them, there's one I attended last week. He came with a PCV of 15%. It is almost incompatible with life. PCV 15.
What is PCB, so that our audience
Yes.
Well, it's a percentage of blood level you have in your system. The minimum is 30.
30.
But this person has
A full adult.
a full adult. And you see how he's breathing.
Oh my God. Did he make it?
That's a story for another day.
This misconception that it happens to people in the village more, is it just simply because of the environments that they are in? Because
Lifestyle.
you finally, or you can
Hardly
hardly
find
find
it
it in people in the urban areas and cities and all that.
To be unbelievable that this does not happen only in the village. It is actually a myth that has been passed down to generations, even those who were educated.
So you're saying it happens to people in urban areas?
Yes.
As much as it does to those in the rural area?
No. You have less of it among the educated people, people living there. So majority is in the village. But people still in the city also
believe.
still believe that if they are in the city and they have
Projections.
problem like that, they run back to the village instead of going to hospital.
Wow.
To go for all those native things. By the time they do it 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and it's getting worse because they are educated, they run away and run back to the hospital. So at that stage, the leg is still salvageable. You see? But the person may now stay longer. If something is supposed to have stayed for 1 week, may not end up staying for 1 month in the hospital.
Right.
But you are still lucky
Okay.
that your leg is still salvageable, so it's not going to be amputated.
Dr. Solomon, I don't know if the UN has a day where they talk about these things. There's an awareness, just like diabetes and the rest of them. But this is what I want you to do. I want you to look into this camera and talk to a viewer, someone listening to you now,
Who believes he has
who believes that Achere is a supernatural projection. I want you to address that person in just 1 minute.
Well,
I'm sure they will listen to you because they see the passion with which you talk.
why I talk like this is I have managed a lot of them, and in managing patients, one of the things we do is to take history. So it is patient that will tell you, this is what it is, this is what they told me it is, and this is what I have done. And at that, you pity the patient because it's total ignorance.
What would be your advice to them?
My advice is that Whether they say it's a share or not, go to hospital first
Hospital first.
and see the professionals and hear the advice. Like the example I told you, the man that came. So if they say you are going to die, go to hospital and tell the doctor. They say that I'm going to die. Is it true? Then let the doctor now tell you, okay, you are going to die or you are not going to die. And the doctor will give you the medication as I gave the man
Yeah.
antibiotics. And I was with him for almost 1 hour waiting for him to die. And he didn't die. He was in the hospital for 5 days plus. And I discharged him and he went home. Perfect.
Thank you very much,
Thank you so much,
Dr.
Dr.
Solomon. Thank you for sharing your time. Thank you for sharing your expertise on this conversation. Of course, it is much more, it's a good conversation because you have had experience of treating leg ulcers or arteria, as some people would like to call it. So thank you very much for coming into the studio with us.
You're welcome.
We appreciate you.
It's a pleasure.
Yes. So this is the much we can take on the new day on Signature TV. My name is still Joshua Ritogun. And
Chikichi Agoroma, as always.
so we'll be moving to our Abuja studio. You stay tuned. They will give you and take good care of you. Don't forget to go to all of our social media platforms. Of course, go like, share, subscribe.
Go now. Go
Hit
now.
that subscribe
Go
button.
now.
You know, just hit it up. And of course, if you have questions, you can send them and we'll pass it across to Dr. Solomon. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Bye for now.